One of the other arguments that one often hears at times like this is that we will now be forced to raise tariffs. What is the outlook as far as you're concerned in terms of tariffs, and also how are you reading the competitive landscape at this point in time?
I'm not really, tariffs, as you know, are under forbearance. Yeah. So they are free to raise tariff, and they can otherwise also raise tariff, and we are not interfering unless there is a reason to interfere. So I will not make any prognosis or any kind of, forecasting as to how this whole thing will work out. I'm not really on that issue.
But do you see that happening?
No, I don't know. I mean, as I said, we are just, the tariffs are under forbearance, and therefore
they're free to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. They are free to peg their tariffs and have their plans. We are having a lot of. In fact, I'm told that after this whole issue of call drop, many mobile operators have converted their plans into seconds plan. We had TRAI had mandated that at least one of the plan must be a second plan. I would recommend that more and more operators and more plans, even when they are minute plan, they can be denominated in terms of seconds. Yeah. So that will probably remove this misconception from some of the stakeholders' views that telcos tend to gain due to call drop.
That's right.
That could be.
Let me move away from tariffs and ask you about the competitive landscapes. And we're now seeing the rollout of 4G. Bharti Airtel is the first off the block, and by the end of this year we will see Reliance Jio as well as Vodafone launch their 4G services as well. How do you read the current situation and the advent as far as 4G is concerned?
Well, let me say one thing, because you initiated the interview with the adversarial part. Let me say this, that I, as a citizen of India, am really proud of the work which telecom industry has done. They are really we have one of the best tariffs in the world. It's a very vibrant industry. So I am always very excited as to what is coming next. So I am really looking forward to more and more services being rolled out. And ultimately, the vision of Digital India will be realized if we are able to provide best of the services at the most affordable prices. So I am quite excited with all the new technologies which are coming.
Speaking of Digital India, one of the other issues that is often raised is spectrum constraints, and of course the kind of money that will be required to be able to put Digital India into shape. On the spectrum front, sir, what more can we now expect in terms of freeing up further spectrum that could be made available, and also in terms of the guidelines for the reserve price?
See, TRAI as an institution has maintained, and it has recommended to the government that there is a need to have more spectrum, and so that it could be used for commercial. There need to have more commercial spectrum available. So that's one part. Just for record, that we have made recommendations in the past. On the other hand, government has also recently asked us, as you are aware, to provide us the reserve price recommendations for various frequency bands, starting with 700, 800, and that we are doing.
When do you anticipate you will be able to put forward your guidelines as a reserve price?
I think pretty soon. We are working out. I think
before the end of this calendar year.
Yeah, I hope so.
Let me also ask you, as far as net neutrality regulations are concerned, and that was another controversial process that that evoked a lot of discussion and debate. The sense one gets is now that it is not really a priority as far as the government is concerned, and maybe the decision on what you intend to do finally with net neutrality regulations could be pushed back.
No, it's not a question of priority or no priority. As you are aware, the TRAI had brought forward a paper on the proposal to regulate the over-the-top players. Though it did not mention net neutrality, but in a sense it did intersect with the net neutrality principle. Similarly, government had also brought out a paper on net neutrality per se. That paper also, and both these papers received a lot of responses.
Yes.
We had 1.8 million on our paper, and I think government also had some, not similar numbers, but quite a large number. So I think we have to take this debate forward, take this whole process forward, and we propose in the next couple of months we'll be bringing out a paper and then consulting stakeholders.
So at least another 6 months before we see anything on net neutrality regulation?
No, let's not say at least 6 months. Let's not give a timeline, but I think in the next couple of months we should be able to.
Next couple of months.
We are working on that.
Okay. Let me now ask you, sir, in terms of what we can expect for the industry in terms of consolidation. And this has been something that everyone's been talking about for a long time now. We've just very recently seen the first move on this front with Reliance Communication and MTS. The Vodafone Global CEO believes that there is space perhaps for 4 or 5 players in India. Sunil Bharti Mittal also believes that there is space for 4 or 5 players in India. Do you see consolidation taking off now on the back of...
I think the enabling kind of environment for consolidation is being created, has been created, because the 2 recent decisions of the government which allowed the sharing of the spectrum and trading of the spectrum. Yeah. These 2 are extremely positive developments which should see some consolidation taking place, improvement in the efficiency also, spectral usage efficiency going up. So I think, I mean, ultimately the rest is for the industry to, act. I mean, it's not either for the government nor for the regulator. But I think the job which the regulator or the government had to do has been done in terms of enabling consolidation to take place in this environment.
Do you have a number in mind?
I really don't have a number, and it will not be appropriate for me to give the best number which should be there.
No, but let me ask you, sir, in terms of expansion, in terms of investments, in terms of the kind of aspirations that we have and the growth that we're seeing within this sector, what kind of investments do you expect? Because when we look at China, for example, the kind of investments that have gone into network expansion pales in comparison, but of course China is not exactly the example to follow because a lot of it is state-led investment in that sense. What kind of investments do you envisage?
Well, I can't put a number, but whatever little I have seen of this sector in the last 3-4 months as a regulator, I think we require substantial investments. Because if you want to, be on the 4G, on the 5G, you want to be ahead on the curve, then naturally you have to put in the appropriate infrastructure in place. For example, one of the thoughts which the TRAI has had in the past and which we have sort of recommended to the government is that we can provide broadband through cable TV network. Yeah. Now that could be a very good vehicle for providing the broadband, and we are sorting out some of the issues which may be there. But we must do everything possible to ensure that the citizens of this country have access to wonderful data services which are latest and the best at very affordable prices. So I think this and that will require I think considerable investment in terms of data networks, in terms
but it will so it will be private sector led. I mean, we're seeing the government spending on the infrastructure side, but as far as this sector is concerned, you believe that it will continue to be private sector led?
It has been. Private sector has played a very important role in this sector, and I think it will continue to be that way. Of course, government has also come up with a very, very ambitious project of BharatNet, which I think, if it implemented, it can become a very effective vehicle for taking the broadband to the masses.
Let me end by asking you, sir, about your assessment of the health of this sector that you regulate. Because if one listens to what the telcos have to say, it's spectrum woes, it's debt woes, it's regulatory woes. In your assessment, how would you rate the health of this sector today?
Well, I'm not a sort of chartered accountant or a finance analyst, but my sense is that it's a healthy growth in terms of revenue, because I was told about 11% growth last fiscal. So that is one part. Plus, of course, I know the industry is going to manage itself well. So I am very positive and gung-ho about the growth of this sector.
Okay, so at this point in time, the January order or the January implementation of the order that was put out by the TRAI on compensating for call drops stands until and unless there is an order from a competent authority suggesting otherwise.
I do not need to make that statement because that is inherent. There is a regulation issued by TRAI, and that regulation has put some stipulation. I am nobody to kind of contradict it or modify it. If there is any competent authority which modifies it or annuls it or sets it aside, barring that situation, the notification of the regulation stands.
Mr. Sharma, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much for taking us through the call drop math and for explaining some of the other issues that you're working on. Appreciate your time, and thank you very much for joining us on CNBC TV 18. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. With that, it is time for us to wrap up the CNBC TV 18 special. From all of us here, goodbye. Many thanks for watching.